Hello everyone, welcome back to BC Calculus, where we're talking lesson number 21, where we're talking about theorems. And in this video we're going to continue talking about the average value theorem. And so we have three more examples that we're going to end up doing here. And here's the first one. It says sketch the graph of f of x equals sine of x over the interval from 0 to pi. And so we can easily do that. So from 0 to pi, we know that the graph looks something like this. All right, something like this. So there's our sketch from 0 to pi. And it says find the average value of the function over the interval, and then we want to sketch the corresponding rectangle. So this is just a really good idea of what we're actually finding here, so what that looks like. So since it's asking us to find the average value of the function, the first thing we're going to do is find this average value. We're going to equal 1 over pi minus 0. So again, it's going to be 1 over b minus a. And we're going to integrate this from 0 to pi of our function. Okay? And so we have 1 over pi. And then we're going to integrate this as negative cosine of x. And we're going to evaluate that from 0 to pi. From 0 to pi. And when we do this, I'm going to constantly keep leaving the 1 over pi on the outside for a second. And I'm going to go ahead and pull up the negative as well. And so I'm going to have the cosine of pi minus the cosine of 0. Well, the cosine of pi, again, I'm going to do this. It's going to be negative 1 minus the cosine of 0 is also going to be negative 1. So I have an answer. I have an answer here at negative 1 over pi times negative 2, which is going to give me a positive 2 over pi. So what does that mean? So remember that if you guys were to sketch this, that the highest value here, right, of our peak, this would actually be 1, right? Because the sine of pi over 2 is 1. So if I'm looking at this particular pi to 2 over pi, well, that's approximately 0.6 something, I don't remember. So about right here. So this is the rectangle, the corresponding rectangle that will give you the idea of what the average value is going to be. So that's going to be the height. So this height here is going to end up being the distance from 0 to here would be 2 over pi. So that's what you do for this question. Now, will you have to sketch things? Most likely no, but that's the idea of what we need to do for this question. All right, again, average value, 1 over b minus a, the integration of a to b of your function, evaluate it, and then it just simply asks you guys to find the value of, or sketch the corresponding rectangle, and that's just telling you that the average, that the area of this thing is pretty similar to the average of that curve, the area of that curve. All right, so let's go on to our next example. Okay, so now this question right here, students sometimes get a little confused about, so I just want to talk about it for a second. It says the temperature of a metal rod, which is 5 meters long. All right, so we have a rod that is 5 meters long. Here is this, 5 meters long, is 4x at a distance x meters from one end of the rod. What's the average temperature of the rod? And it's 4x and it's in centimeters Celsius. So if I'm trying to find this average value, well, I can now say that over this rod, well, my average temperature, I should say, the average temperature is going to be 1 over 5 minus 0, because the length of the rod is from 0 to 5. So this is the distance from the beginning to the end. So this is the overall distance, our interval from A to B, if you will, is 0 to 5. And then our function is just going to be 4x. So this tells us that this is how we're going to find our temperature is 4x from the end of one rod. So it's going to be 4x dx. So all I have to do here is just actually integrate this. So I get 1/5, and then we'll go ahead and integrate this. This is going to be 2x squared. Evaluate it from 0 to 5. And, just like before, I can pull out 2. I don't really need to, but I can pull out 2/5. And then I'm going to go ahead and do 25 minus 0. And so I'm going to get that this is going to be 50 over 5, which gives me 10. And 10 is the degrees Celsius. So the average temperature of this rod is going to be, no matter what distance we're looking at, again, this 4x is just telling us what the temperature is, somewhat down the length of this rod. But the average temperature is simply going to be 10 centimeters Celsius. Oh, sorry, 10 degrees Celsius. 10 degrees Celsius. And the last question on this actual lesson, and we're going to get more into this a little bit later in the course. So, this is really the idea of what this question is. But, this definitely is a calculator question. This was just an FRQ that was pulled that had something to do with, an exponential function. And then, we're going to ask you for the average value. So just as a quick refresher of this, it says we know we have a value of a new RAV4 in dollars. And here's our function. And so you guys are going to learn when we start doing these differential equations, you're going to learn that the initial value is going to be 27,500, which you probably already knew. So this was our initial. This was at time equals 0, right? If I put time equals 0 here, this is all going to go away. So that's really easy. So V of t is going to equal to this value. And so it says, what is the depreciation value of the car? Well, knowing this equation, like I said, we are not there yet. But you guys will eventually learn that y equals ae to the rt. So our rate is simply right there. So our rate is going to be right here. So it's going to be negative 0.17. So our depreciation rate is simply going to be equal to 17%. And it's depreciating because it's negative. So the rate is just 17%. But again, that's not important. That's not important, but I just want to answer the question just because it's sitting there. It says, what is the average value of the car over the first 10 years? So guys, all you have to do here to solve this problem is go and say that the average value is going to be equal to 1 over 10 minus 0. So you just have to remember that piece, right? The average value is 1 over 10 minus 0. So this is the years from 0 to 10, and we're just evaluating, or we're just integrating our velocity function, dt. And so when we use our calculator, we're going to $13,221.30. So you guys can see that in 10 years to depreciation, 17%, but the average value of this is going to be over the first 10 years. So this is what the average of the car was over the first 10 years, is $13,221.30. Does that mean that this is what the value of the car is now at 10 hours? No. It is not. It's what the average value was over the course of the 10 years. Okay? So there you go. We are now officially done with our theorems. And so I will see you guys back in the next video. Take care.